Let's take a look at some of the latest in Illinois headlines. I'm Greg Bishop. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. You can follow along Bishop On Air on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, where we broadcast live. Again, just search Bishop On Air. You can also find us streaming on WMAY News on Facebook or broadcasting in Central Illinois, 92.7 WMAY. A lot of talk on the YouTube feed about what's going on with federal investigations of COVID-19 fraud on key firearms. Apparently, media reports showing that there's about 20 some odd charges against for loan fraud, and this happening here in Illinois with obviously a lot of unknowns here. But I imagine that a lot more is going to come out about that. As federal investigators continue their review of how COVID-19 pandemic assistance dollars were used and abused and all the fraud there is. I mean, just think about all the fraud there was in the unemployment system. Now, a lot of that might be lost, but if they can track down fraud and from PPP loans or other types of COVID-19 relief dollars that were paid for by tax dollars, that was trillions of dollars that went out. So again, innocent until proven guilty, but that's a pretty hot story. A lot of people are talking about. But speaking of, the pandemic, of course, a lot of fallout from that, and I wanted to touch on this again because it's an important story. And as far as National Guard members that are going to be welcomed back with open arms to the Illinois National Guard. So the National Guard says they have open arms for about 2% of the state's service members who were barred from attending drills for not complying with the President of the United States vaccine mandate. That mandate from President Joe Biden came just months after he said he's not going to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for members of the military. So some people caught a little bit off guard, no pun intended. But you do have around 313 guardsmen that were kept from being able to train with the Illinois National Guard because they did not comply. Now, are they going to get back pay? They should not expect back pay unless there's some kind of law change. There would have to be a law approved by Congress and signed by the president for those 313 guardsmen to get back pay. So the Department of Defense lifting that COVID-19 vaccine mandate. You've got the Illinois National Guard saying that now that the federal COVID policy is rescinded and all federal administrative actions intended solely for COVID-19 refusal are rescinded as well, the Illinois National Guard's reached out to those service members and requested that they return for weekend training and annual training effective January 10th. So the call's already out for those service members, 313 of them, to come back and train. Now, only one National Guard member from Illinois was dismissed for not complying. I don't have the number of who applied for the religious or the medical exemption. May be able to get that number in the days ahead, so I'll keep you posted on that. But interesting to see, again, 313 guardsmen that just straight up refused to comply with the vaccine mandate, being welcomed back with, quote, open arms, and that makes up about 2% of the 13,000 members of the Illinois National Guard. Meanwhile, in other headlines concerning the vaccine, troops who refused COVID vaccines still may face discipline, at least according to the Associated Press, on a Department of Defense level. So interesting to see how that plays out. Some other things going on around Illinois. Of course, we've talked about population decline for years, having watched all of the estimates come out year after year after year from the U.S. Census showing that Illinois continues to lose population. Well, WirePoint's taking a recent news article from the Chicago Sun-Times to task, calling it, kind of out of touch. So nonprofit WirePoints, they do a lot of analysis, delving deep into the numbers, and they saw a recent Chicago Sun-Times article of why people are leaving the state. And Mark Glennon, he's the founder of WirePoints, he says that the article called Why So Many People Are Leaving Illinois didn't mention anything about high taxes, corruption, crime, or Chicago's poor economy.
Important topic of why people are leaving Illinois was was given short shrift despite all the resources that the Sun-Times has.
Now, he also says another reason that's being underreported as to why people are fleeing Illinois and will continue to do so is the research shows people are moving to states that are more politically like them.
If that's the case, and it probably is more so in Illinois, we have a huge national sort of resorting going on where the country's going to get far more divided even than it is right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out demographically. Glennon also said that the article from the Sun-Times didn't offer any information or specifics about Illinois and why people are leaving. Again, nothing about crime, nothing about the economy, nothing about corruption.
Taxes and a better economy elsewhere. And I think the best evidence for that is the IRS migration that comes out every year that, of course, shows people moving to low-tax states and away from Illinois and other high-tax states.
So interesting to see that analysis of a Chicago Sun-Times article as to why people are leaving Illinois. We've reported on why people are leaving Illinois time and again, and I think Glenn in there really hits it with the IRS migration data. You can really see it's the higher earners that are leaving the state of Illinois. It's not the lower income people that are leaving the state of Illinois. And you got to think if that trend continues, just who's going to be left in Illinois to pay for benefits that lower income people may need. You can see it can turn into a spiral of sorts out of control if that trend continues. Some other headlines, maybe this will help with the state's finances, which could help with taxes. A measure looks to increase the state's rainy day fund. Comptroller Susana Mendoza was testifying in front of a House committee yesterday where she talked about a bill that she wants to make sure it boosts the state's rainy day fund. And how this would work is if the state has less than $3 billion of bills they have to pay, which is kind of considered a typical bill schedule, then they can start putting some money automatically into the state's rainy day fund. Here's the comptroller.
The stated purpose in law says that the Rainy Day Fund, or more specifically the Budget Stabilization Fund, would be used to reduce the need for future tax increases.
Now, State Representative Mark Walker, he asked some pretty specific questions about how this would work.
There are some times where we have extremely high inflation for multiple years, where the cost inflation starts catching up to our revenue inflation, and I would need that to be addressed.
But Mendoza, she said that it can still happen even with high inflation.
We must learn from previous mistakes and put measures in place to help us avoid actions that waste taxpayers' money and help provide greater payment predictability for providers and vendors alike.
So if you have greater predictability, better finances, are you going to be able to lower those taxes? We shall see. Let's take a call. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What's up?
Yes, hello, Greg. Sean Gotti here.
What's up, man?
Did somebody say leaving Illinois?
Somebody said leaving Illinois, and they didn't say it was because of crime, taxes, or corruption.
I'm shocked that wasn't a part of it. But, yeah, it resonated with me hearing that because that's the best decision I've ever made.
Now, how long ago was it that you left? And you came back for a spell, right?
Man, did I. Yeah, so we left at 19, came down here to North Carolina, was down here for about 2.5 years. And for whatever reason, my better half had the inkling to come back home, in which we did, reluctantly. And then last December, the 30th, as a matter of fact, we boned out again, and we'll never return. Just for a visit.
Except for a visit, right? If you want to come back and buy me a beer, hey, you're probably saving some tax dollars over there. And what was it that made you go? Was it employment? Was it just getting away from the politics? What was it that made you want to get out of Illinois?
It just, I don't know. We just kind of, first of all, my wife's job brought us here. That was first and foremost. Her job was going to be down here, so that's why we moved. But coming back here, it was just seeing the state of Illinois, that it was in, and just all the taxes and the crime and the policies coming forth, it was just too much.
Interesting.
Entirely too much.
Right on. Well, some media outlets don't think that that's necessarily the reason that people leave, but
they're ignorant.
Appreciate your anecdotes, Sean Gotti, listening all the way from across the country. So thanks for checking in.
940 miles away, sir.
Wow, look at that.
Take care.
Awesome. I appreciate you calling in, man, and listening from all the way back there. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Be sure to follow along, Bishop on Air, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can also find all the clips and whatnot, call-in segments and guest segments as well here on our Facebook and YouTube page. Just search Bishop on Air.